Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Now in this very quick Bible meditation, I just wanted to share with you guys something that I've learned in a youth camp that I participated a couple of weeks ago. And it was a very beautiful time, knowing other young people, spending moments together, celebrating, worshiping God, meditating about His Word, talking about different topics, about our experiences, maybe our sufferings and our questions. And it was a very beautiful time when we were able to really grow deeper into knowing more God and knowing more about His Word. And now the theme of this youth camp was the expectations for 2022, because it was in the New Year's Eve time, right? And therefore in this video I just wanted to share with you something that we shared during these days, this youth camp. Expectations for 2022. See, every time that a year ends and a new one begins, we tend to reflect, okay, in this last year, what was I able to do? Was I able to accomplish, some things? Maybe things that I planned at the start, of the past year, something that I planned to do, maybe some goals, some objectives. Did I have great expectations? But then maybe what happened, right? Were they fulfilled or were they not fulfilled? And it's very important when we're talking about expectations. What does the Bible teach us about having expectations? Should we have great expectations? Should we have normal expectations? Should we have poor expectations? Or should we have no expectations at all, right? And now there is a very nice story in Luke chapter 8 from verse 40 until verse 56 that tells us about a dead girl and a sick woman. And I'm going to just read down the story, and I'm going to try to comment about the expectations. So try to think here about, if you would try to imagine a person, right, that has positive and great expectations, what are the consequences of that? So imagine yourself having good and great expectations. What are the results of that? If you have great expectations, you're going to behave in a certain way, you're going to act in a certain way, you're going to just live in order to achieve those expectations, right? Instead, if you have poor or bad expectations, or maybe not expectations at all, you're going to instead behave differently. You're going to act differently. Maybe you're not going to act at all. You're going to just live your life differently, right? It's like when you expect much, it's easier to get sometimes disappointed, but at the same time, you are more prone, more active, and you try to achieve those things. Instead, when you have poor expectations, you might not get disappointed, but at the same time, you don't really change. You cannot really change or improve or act, right? Because you don't really expect much. And now we're gonna read this story, and we're gonna see what God is teaching us through this story and what our expectations should be like, and especially on what should we found and ground our expectations. So let's read here from verse 40, Luke chapter 8. Now, when Jesus returned, a crowd welcomed him, for they were all expecting him. Then a man named Jairus, a ruler of the synagogue, came and fell at Jesus' feet, pleading with him to come to his house, because his only daughter, a girl of about 12, was dying. So here we have the image of Jesus, being greeted by this great amount of people, this crowd, and then this man, this Jairus, that was a ruler, so like a pretty important person, right, comes to Jesus and asks Jesus to come to his home because his only daughter is dying. Now, here it continues. As Jesus was on his way, the crowds almost crushed him. So imagine a ton of people, pressing against Jesus as he's walking, as he's following this Jairus. right? Verse 43, and a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years, but no one could heal her. So we are introduced here to this woman that it's in this crowd around Jesus, that it's very sick, has been bleeding for these 12 years, and no one could heal her. Verse 44, she came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak, and immediately her bleeding stopped. Verse 45, who touched me? Jesus asked. When they all denied it, Peter said, Master, the people are crowding and pressing against you. But Jesus said, someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me. Then the woman, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, came trembling and fell at his feet. In the presence of all the people, she told why she had touched him and how she had been instantly healed. Now here I wanted to try to think about the situation. You see, this woman was bleeding, was sick for 12 years. She had tried everything to heal herself, but she couldn't succeed. And there is this huge crowd around Jesus. And then here he says in verse 44 that she came, and she only tried to touch the edge of Jesus. So she was trying to reach Jesus, between the crowd. Imagine all the people in the crowd. She tried to grab and to touch Jesus. Why did she do that? Right? Why she tried to grab Jesus? It's very likely that she had heard about Jesus, right? She had heard that Jesus was healing people, that Jesus had miraculous powers. And so try to imagine about her expectations, right? What were the expectations of this woman? Remember, she had been sick for 12 years. She had lost pretty much all hope, right? Because no one could heal her. But still, she had great expectations because she knew who Jesus was. She had heard about Jesus, the fact that he had healed so many people. And so she knew her only hope left was, if I only can touch Jesus, I will be healed. So her expectations were impossible, right? Were very, very high because she was expecting something impossible. If you only touch a person, how can you get healed from something that no one could heal? How can you get healed like that, right? That's almost an impossible expectation. But she knew who Jesus was. She knew the reputation of Jesus. Jesus had this kind of miraculous power. So she knew, okay, if I can even reach Jesus, I will be healed. Now, this is very important because of the fact that if you try to context everything, at that time, a person with a disease like this one was actually an outcast and couldn't stand between other people. So here, she's actually transgressing the law. She's between the crowd, and she's trying here to reach Jesus. So imagine this huge amount of people, and she somehow has to elbow her way in, trying to, if I can only reach Jesus. I also kind of imagine, her being pretty weak. So, trying to maybe sometimes she squatted, right? She tried to reach Jesus from the bottom. And it's very likely that that happened because of the fact that she touched just the edge of his cloak, as it says here. And it's very nice, the reaction of Jesus, right? You can see here that Jesus realizes immediately that something happened. Something supernatural has happened. And here Peter, that was one of his disciples, after Jesus says, who touched me? Try to imagine all the people pushing, pressing against Jesus. Here Peter is saying, Master, like everyone is touching you right now because you're pressed, you're surrounded by this crowd. But then Jesus says again, someone touched me because I know that something supernatural has occurred. And then if we just continue the story here, when she comes in front, she says, okay, Jesus, I was the one that touched you. Here, it's very important to notice that she was afraid to announce herself because of the fact, remember, she had transgressed the law. She couldn't have been there with other normal people because she was sick. So she had to be outcast. She had to be outside the city. And here Jesus, verse 48, then Jesus said to her, daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. And so can you imagine, the woman knowing that she's doing something that she shouldn't do? Her last hope is Jesus. She she heard about this great man that can heal everything. And so with all her courage, she comes out and she tries to grab and she touches Jesus. And she's instantly healed. Why? Because of her great expectation. You see here, Jesus is saying to her, your faith has healed you. You see, the great expectation of this woman were based on the fact that she knew who Jesus was. She knew that Jesus could heal her. Her faith was grounded on that fact, the fact that she had heard Jesus healing everybody. And so she only thought, if I can only touch him, I'm going to be healed. And you can see her great expectations, because they were grounded on Jesus, then she got her prize, right? She got rewarded because she got healed. And you can see here the consequences of having great expectations grounded on Jesus, on his word, on the word of God, in this case. And then here we continue with the story now. Verse 49, while Jesus was still speaking, someone came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue ruler. So the character we'll talk about earlier in the earlier verses. Your daughter is dead, he said. Don't bother the teacher anymore. So try to imagine here instead this person, right, this man that comes from the house of Jairus and tells Jairus, your daughter is dead. Don't make Jesus come to your house because it's too late. She's not anymore sick, she's dead. So there is nothing that can be done here. Now, what are the expectations of this man? Zero, right? He had no expectations at all. Because here he's saying, your daughter is dead. There is nothing that can be done. Not even Jesus, this miraculous teacher, not even he can do something about it. That's terrible. But here what Jesus says, verse 50. Hearing this, Jesus said to Jairus, don't be afraid, just believe, and she will be healed. So once again here, Jesus is calling in action Jairus' faith. Jairus knew who Jesus was capable of doing, and his faith was grounded in that. But here it comes this very bad news. Your daughter is dead. There is nothing that can be done. Zero expectations. But here Jesus is once again fueling up Jairus' expectations. He's saying, don't be afraid, just believe. She will be healed. No, don't be like this man that has zero expectations, that has low expectations. Keep on having great expectations, like the woman before. Keep on believing in me. Keep on having faith in me, and she will be healed. And then the story here continues. I'm going to just complete everything. Verse 51 says, when Jesus arrived at the house of Jairus, he did not let anyone go in with him, except Peter, John, and James, and the child's father and mother. Meanwhile, all the people were wailing and mourning for her. So they were all saying, oh no, they were all sad because she had died, right? Stop wailing, Jesus said. She's not dead, but asleep. So once again here, Jesus is trying to fuel up the expectations of everyone. Don't have low expectations. Keep on believing in me and have great expectation. Expect something even impossible because I can do it. But look here what happens. Verse 53, they laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. So once again, even if Jesus is trying to bring them to have great expectations in him, but the crowd is laughing. They are saying, they're believing, she's dead. There is nothing that can be done. There is nothing, not even you can do something. Once again, zero expectations, no expectations. Verse 54, but he took her hand and said, my child, get up. Her spirit returned, and at once she stood up. Then Jesus told them to give her something to eat. Her parents were astonished, but he ordered them not to tell anyone what had happened. And here is the end of the chapter and the end of this story, this one that I want to talk about you today. And now this is a very short story. We have different characters. We have the sick woman, we have Jairus, we have Jesus, we have this man, we have the crowd. And you can clearly see how different characters having different expectations. You know, the woman having great expectations, Jairus also having great expectations. You know, Jesus fueling them and trying to tell him, you know, even if they announced to you that your daughter is dead, just believe, don't be afraid, trust in me, and she will be healed. So keep having great expectation, but founded on me, you know, on what I can do, on who I am. And instead we can see what happens when we have low expectations or zero expectations, like the man. We tend to see things negatively. There is nothing that can be done. She's dead, right? Why bother the master? Why make him come home? You know, it's too late. Your daughter is dead. There is nothing that can be done. You can see the consequences of having bad expectations means that the miracle cannot happen. See, when we have low expectations because we think that our situation, our struggle, everything that we're going through cannot be changed, not even by God. See, that's the worst possible thing that we can do, because we are actually stopping God from acting, because he could change the situation. In this case, here Jesus could raise the girl from the dead, and he actually then did it. And so I just wanted to show you with this little meditation, with this story, I wanted to encourage you to have great expectations, but remember, having them grounded on the Word of God, on who God is, on who Jesus is, on what he can do, and expect great things. You know, have faith in him, on who he is, or what he can do, and you will see your expectations, maybe that something that it's impossible to be able to be obtained and to get it. So for this new year, I really want to encourage you to put your faith in Jesus and expect great things for this year. You know, you can have, I really recommend to write down a list, things that I want to accomplish this year. Dreams, goals, anything. And then pray and bring these things towards God and tell him, Lord, I know you can do everything. I know that nothing is impossible for you. I know that maybe these expectations, you know, might be impossible, but I want to trust in you and I want to bring them to you. Please, I know you can. You know, many times God, you know, we want some things and then God shows us that maybe he wants to lead us in a different direction. And many times, you know, remember that what God is preparing for us is always better than what we wanted for us. So many times we want certain things, but God has prepared better things. So don't be disappointed if God then maybe gives you something else, because that else that he gave you was the best for you in that moment. So just trust in him and know that if you give your life to Jesus and you trust in him with all your heart, he's going to guide you and he's going to lead you in good places and wherever you have to be. So I hope you guys enjoyed. God bless you. Thanks for watching and see you. Bye-bye.